Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And today is Taco Tuesday.
It's raining tacos from out of the sky. Tacos, no need to ask why. Just open your mouth and close your eyes. It's raining tacos.
It's raining tacos out in the street. Tacos, all you can eat. Lettuce and shells, cheese and meat. It's raining tacos. Yum, 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 yummity yum. It's like a dream. Yum, 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 yummity yum. Bring your sour cream.
Oh, that's right, folks. Hey, sorry about missing you guys yesterday, but I got to be honest with you. It was an interesting trip back. Not crazy interesting, but we were at I was in Washington D.C. at the beginning of the week. I was at NRA at the end of the week and through the weekend, and I got up yesterday morning, made my travels home, and whew, I am beat. I flew home, and boy, are my arms tired. Okay, no rim shot. Anyway. But just could not get around to getting things set back up to do the show yesterday. But here I am today, and here we are. We're going to be talking about stuff. Fortunately, Mike got called in to work on a project at work, so Mike is not going to be joining us. So it's just going to be us, and we've got a doozy. We've got some very, very interesting things about which we will be having a conversation. But with that, let's go ahead and start off the way that we usually do, and that's going to be with a quick shout out to our sponsors. All right, now that's going to start with the folks over at Hitman Industries. They make rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase at any length. If you purchase an AR in the last 5 years, chances are you already have one of their barrels, so why not get another one? Whether you're looking to do a brand new build or rebarrel your old rifles, start your project, start your experience with Hitman Industries. And then we've got the California Republican Assembly working to help elect conservatives at all levels of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. Ronald Reagan once referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party. You need to find out why. Just go to cragop.org. That's cragop.org and become a part of California's future today. And then we've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market. You will find them at hogholsters.com. That's right, hogholsters.com, HAWG holsters.com. I know, it was spelled funny, but make it real simple. Helping Americans wear guns. That's right. And by the way, if they want to help you so much that they're willing to offer you a discount. All you have to do is use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces, one word, just like it is right up there, and you are going to get your hog holster on discount from us. And then finally, if you're looking for tactical gear, as the weather changes, as the seasons change, you're always going to be looking for new gear. So why not go to the place where you can find a ton of gear, a place that specializes in group sales and that has the best customer service available on the market. That's right, I'm talking about uscombatgear.com. They specialize once again in group sales. They have a huge selection. They have competitive prices. And oh, by the way, the best customer service on the market. So go there today, the place where you can find all things tactical except the gun, and that would be at uscombatgear.com. Also want to remind you, if you're watching the program during the 3 o'clock hour on the West Coast or the 6 o'clock hour on the East Coast, you are watching us live, which means we are following your comments right over here. That's right, since I'm in a different location, your comments are coming up right over here. And if we find them to be interesting, we will share them. And the best way to be interesting is when you disagree, because when you disagree, that gives us the opportunity to mock you.
Oh wow, is that a mockingbird?
Man, in the mockingbird? Another mockingbird?
Now, mind you, we do not mock you to be mean. We mock you because it's entertaining, mostly to me. So anyway, yeah, we would love to hear you. Would love to hear what you have to say. Let us know where you're watching the program from. Let us know what you think about the topic that we're, and who knows, maybe you have something to offer. Maybe you can offer some facts. By the way, if you're going to offer facts that contradict what I'm saying, make sure you put in a link. Do that. Source your material. Do that for a brother, okay? All right, good. Let's go ahead and get into today's topic, and we're going to start with Iran negotiations. As you know, the ceasefire, which was supposed to end tonight, now they're saying it's not going to end until tomorrow, Which when they say tonight, I'm like, okay, did you extend it? Did you extend it a day, or did you extend it? In other words, is it extended to the end of Wednesday, or is it extended until the end of Tuesday night, which is the beginning of Wednesday? I don't know, but things are kind of a funky going on over there, and they're supposed to be having negotiations, but the problem is no one knows if anyone's going to actually show up at these negotiations. And here, being reported by Breitbart, it says here, Iran negotiations. Trump expects bombing or great deal. So I think this has been recently updated. But it says here, President Donald Trump said that he expects to reach a deal with Iran in negotiations at the end of the war on Tuesday. But if no deal is made, he is prepared to resume bombing. The 2-week ceasefire Trump agreed to is set to expire on Wednesday, with the Strait of Hormuz remaining a centerpiece to the conflict between the United States and Iran. Iranian negotiators have agreed to meet with Vice President J.D. Vance in Pakistan to discuss potential agreement. Vance is leaving for Pakistan on Tuesday. What I think is that we're going to end up with a great deal, Trump said in an interview to CNBC on Tuesday. I think they have no choice. We've taken out their Navy, we've taken out their Air Force, we've taken out their leaders, frankly. It is regime change no matter how you feel about it, which is not something I said I was going to do, but I've done indirectly. Maybe that's what I've done. And I think part of the issue that they're having here is due to that fact that, yeah, maybe they didn't want regime change, but here's the problem. You've taken out 2 layers, the top 2 layers, and part of the 3rd layer of the people that you would normally be negotiating with. No one knows who's in charge over there now. Back in the day, back in the olden times, when I say olden times, I mean olden times, like Civil War era, right? There used to be a time where when someone wore, a general or a commander, someone wore, they wore their garb so that you could know they could be identified as an officer. The idea was you didn't want leaderless armies roaming the battlefield, because when it was time to surrender or something like that, well, you never know if it was an actual surrender or not, because all the people who had the power to surrender are gone. Well, we're kind of dealing with that right now. I mean, you've got one group of people that are negotiating with the White House, and then you've got another group of people who are the ones who are actually, with their fingers on the trigger. Well, until those 2 groups of people are one and the same, we're going to have some problems. So I think there's 2 parts of this war that has not been thought out well enough. One is the Strait of Hormuz, and the other was the full-blown elimination of all the leadership there. Obviously we are clearly winning this war. Obviously we've devastated their Navy, we've devastated their Air Force, we've taken out just about every single one of their drones that they could possibly send up. The problem is, who's left to tell them to stop fighting? So anyway, that's just, I'm not a military expert, but now that I look at it, I'm kind of wondering, are we negotiating with the right people? I don't know. And I don't know if we know whether or not we're negotiating with the right people. I keep telling folks who are critical of this war that in some cases it's just Trump derangement syndrome. But there are some people who have expressed legitimate concerns, and I always tell them those are legitimate concerns. They're just premature. Eventually, we may get to the point where, those are major issues. We're just not there yet. So some people agree with me, some people don't. But, I think the people in the media and the people on the left who are already out there declaring this war a loss or acting like we've already lost this war, you're more part of the problem. Because that, by the way, is exactly who Iran is teetering towards. That's who they're trying to get, because they know they can't win this militarily. They're hoping to win it in the court of public opinion. And for those who hate Donald Trump and anything Donald Trump does, those are the people they are speaking to. And they're hoping that those folks will eventually help them to win the war. because they're not going to win it on the battlefield. There's no possible way. They have no hope of winning this battle on the battlefield. But that's not going to stop them from trying. Now, this next story here is, and by the way, just so you know, this next story will explain to you how the mainstream media, or how the media gets this stuff so wrong, because they wind up working with one side. They wind up getting all of their information. It's not unbiased information upon which many of these media groups are working with. It's totally biased information. It just happens to be biased in one particular direction, and it ain't a pro-America direction. This is a story over at the Washington Free Beacon where they point out former Iranian state media editor now works for U.S. media bias group that rates liberal outlets more reliable than conservative counterparts. Now, why that? Think about that. You have mainstream media or liberal outlets basically reporting that we're losing the war, right? That we're in a quagmire with all of these various different things. They talking about the report, the number of people who have passed away, number of people who've been killed. Not even close, right? Not even close. One is biased compared to the other. And yet, the reason why you see such biased reporting is because they're hiring the enemy. This being reported by Alana Goldman over at the Free Beacon. Says a former paid scribe for an Iranian state-affiliated newspaper now works for a U.S. media watchdog group known for producing a media bias chart that rates liberal outlets as more reliable than conservative ones. Messim Zamanabadi, there we go. An analyst with Ad Fuentes Media, spent a large part of his career as an editor at Iranian state-run media outlet Hamshahri, a Tehran-run newspaper controlled at the time by Mayor Mohammad Bagher. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that last name. Now Speaker of the Iranian Parliament and chief regime negotiator. Ad Fuentes, which the influential Poynter Institute has praised as fair and easy to understand, is cited by the institutions like Cornell University as a good option for news consumers to evaluate media bias. Ad Fuentes has also promised that corporations that use its ratings can, quote, get business results by advertising on high quality news. Major corporations such as General Motors say they use Ad Fuentes to ensure that our ads all show up in reliable publications. Let's see. It says here he grew up and went to college in Iran, is based in California. It says here his website describes him as a founder and editor of Tamashagar News Agency, an Iranian sports news website, and says he's worked in journalism since 1996. So in other words, they hired someone who worked with Iranian media. Now, keep in mind, anyone over at Iranian media, their commitment is not to the truth, their commitment is to Iran, in particular to those who are running the government of Iran, and he's not interested in telling you the truth. He has no real interest in telling you the truth. His information is 100% biased, and so I'm guessing that the information that you then get from those people who, the sources that he says, this is where you should go, I'm guessing that, that outlet is biased as well. So, dude is unreliable. But once again, this is a guy who the mainstream media looks to say, hey, are they being biased? So you look to someone who's biased on one side and you expect them to be honest and truthful about whether or not the other side is biased, that makes absolutely no sense. That just sounds just plain dumb. But I could be wrong. Yeah. All right, that now brings us to this next one. And this was an article I just came across that talks about gender and gun purchases. And I thought you'd be interested to know that the gender gap in terms of gun ownership, well, is it to say it's improving? Is that how I'd want to put it? Is it getting better, or are more women purchasing firearms? Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's the story, but let's take a look at it real quick over here. Here we go. Okay, it says gun ownership by gender in 2026, closing the gender gap. The narrowing gender gap in gun ownership indicates that firearms are increasingly being seen as essential tools for self-defense by women. Americans own guns for various reasons in numbers that vary from state to state. One thing that data shows is gun ownership by gender is changing in ways we didn't expect. The report, the gap between male and female gun owners in the United States has narrowed. Female gun ownership has increased by 5 to 15% since 1980, while male gun ownership has increased by 11%. Between 39 and 43% of men, 65 to 71 million, reported owning firearms in 2025. Between 17 and 25% of women, 29 to 43 million, reported owning firearms in 2025. In 2025, 77% of male and female gun owners cited personal protection for their reason for owning guns. Okay. I'm not going to get into the methodology. It says here, recent surveys indicate that 32% of Americans, approximately 107.5 million, personally own firearms. In 2025, an average of 19 men and 29 women, and 39% of men and 19% of women claim gun ownership for self-defense. Anyway, so the point here that they're trying to make is that more women are owning guns, and I think if you had been at NRA this past weekend, you would agree with that. There were a ton of women out there. In fact, if you go over to Two-Way News, and you'll see, because I did interviews all weekend, probably almost, if not more than, at least somewhere around half of the people in the industry that I interviewed were women. So they're not just owning more guns, they're actually getting involved and engaged in the industry as firearms trainers, working with FFLs, working in producing or in engineering firearms and marketing firearms. So we're seeing a huge change, and that's a good thing. You know, I always say this, if you want people to see the Second Amendment as a right, you have to give them an opportunity to exercise it, right? Help them understand and see the benefits of when you exercise your right to keep and bear arms, because in the end, you will you'll come to recognize it to be a very, 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 very good thing. All right, next on the list, Representative McCormick has resigned from Congress. This is a Democrat. This Democrat is basically accused of stealing millions of dollars. And she was about to be disciplined by the House Ethics Committee, and, well, let's be honest, didn't quite make it to the point where she was able to be gone after because, well, she resigned. Let's see here. It says here, Representative Sheila Shafillis McCormick resigned from Congress on Tuesday, 30 minutes before she was scheduled to appear before an ethics panel over her alleged theft of $5 million in taxpayer money to fund political ambitions. House Ethics Investigative Committee found last month that she violated more than 24 laws, rules, or regulations governing lawmakers. and was weighing whether to recommend censure or potential expulsion. After careful reflection and prayer, I have concluded that it is in the best interest of my constituents and the institution to leap aside at this time. The Florida Democrat informed House Speaker Mike Johnson, Republican from Louisiana. I remain committed to supporting a smooth transition and ensuring continuity of service in the district. With her departure, Republicans now have a 217 to 213 majority over Democrats in the lower chamber. The letter was expected to be read on the House floor later on Tuesday. So anyway, so she's up for stealing money. Now, I don't know whether she did it or not. The information that I've seen is pretty compelling, but she is entitled to her day in court just like everybody else. So who knows? We'll find out. We'll see. Did she steal the money? Did she not steal the money? All I know is I still remember when William Jefferson, right? A guy named William Jefferson, back in the 90s, stole money. Had was found to have had $90,000 that was part of a drug ring bust, a bribery bust. Had $90,000 in a freezer, in a freezer in New Orleans. Come to find out, or not come to find out, but in the end, what wound up happening, the Democratic caucus basically gave him a standing ovation when he returned. Nothing ever happened to the dude. I mean, dude had $90,000 in basically marked money from a criminal investigation in his freezer as a congressman, and nothing happened to him. So, I don't know. That was the 90s, and I guess everyone got away with corrupt stuff. And by the way, don't get me wrong, Republicans do corrupt stuff too. I mean, we've already seen one guy get kicked out, one Republican have to resign for it. Yeah, so the peanut gallery here is chiming in. So, but yeah, he's saying Republicans always do corrupt stuff. Now, I would say this: there have been far more people who have either had to resign or been investigated or gone to jail on the Democratic side of the aisle for corruption than Republicans. But I ain't gonna sit here and tell you the Republicans haven't been guilty of it, because we got some folks on our side too. So anyway, that's that. Anyway, folks, that now brings us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com, use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, one word, and get your hog holster today. Now, all of our parting shots today are going to be brought to you by the Babylon Bee, fake news that you can trust. All right, let's see here. Okay, this first one here is our good friend, Mr. Gavin Mussolini. It says here, Newsom orders reservoirs to be emptied in preparation for fire season, because that's how he manages fire season, just in case you were wondering. Oh, this is a good one. Mamdani and Obama treat preschoolers to reading of the Communist Manifesto. Yeah, that's what they do. Anyway, here we go. Oh, there's a good one. That's one right in the corner. Mamdani orders visiting teams to redistribute some of their runs to the Mets. Okay, that's a good one. Ilhan Omar assures public her finances will be handled honestly by professionals at the Quality Accounting Center. Okay, that is a good one. That is a good one. What's this next one? Here we go. And then we've got Trump promises to learn from his mistakes as soon as he does something wrong. Yeah, that's a good one. And then finally, NATO leaders announce they are now ready and willing to assist the U.S. With the war in Vietnam. Because, yeah, y'all are pretty much useless. I don't know why we rely on NATO or they are useless between NATO and the UN. Although I'd rather be in NATO than the UN. The UN is completely and utterly useless. Anyway, folks, that brings us to the end of our program. But before we go, we're going to have a couple of shout outs to our sponsors, Hitman Industries. They make rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase at any length at hitmanindustries.net. We've got the California Republican Assembly, the conscience of the Republican Party. Check them out at cragop.org. Then we've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market at hogholsters.com. That's HAWG, holsters.com, helping Americans wear guns. And finally, we've got the place where you can find all things tactical except the gun, and that would be at uscombatgear.com. All right, that's going to be it for today's program. We will be back tomorrow on Hump Day. Till then, y'all have fun, stay safe, and we will see you mañana.